This week, transit brought us an opportunity to explore this really interesting Gene Key number 60 that stands and represents shadow of limitation, gift of realism, and the divine gift or the city of justice. And I thought immediately, what an interesting time to explore or think of our limitations, because I think on individual level and on the collective level, we all are presented with a bunch of limitations that we can now either make our shadows or take our limitation into the reality of our gifts and really explore and see what these limitations might provide us with. It helped me to see limitations, and also throughout all my life I've experienced quite a few limitations just by the nature of places where I was born, places where I lived for a while. I've experienced limitations which I still realized that I was able to transform them and experience them as the gift of realism, right? So in the way of looking at limitation as a funnel was a really helpful way to understand how to use our awareness to use limitation as a structure, as a funnel that gives us ability to work with our reality, to work with everything that is in our reality. I always like to use this analogy of our reality as a playground. So as we are at the playground, we are now presented with the limited amount of sand, let's say, and we have a choice to what type of sandcastles we can build in our sandbox, let's call it this way. So limitation, how we use our limitations, and working with the nature of reality, realism. And it also was helpful to think and work with the understanding of realism, or looking at realism as this place of all potentiality, is the place where everything is possible. And it really comes down to how we decide to work with our limitations. Are we going to look at them as our limitations only and inability to move around? Similarly to how we can look at genetics and think of genetics, it's something that's looking us up, or we can consider this whole entire field of epigenetic and unlimited opportunities and possibilities that are available to us if we simply decide on stepping out from the reality of limitations. And then divine gift of realism leads us into this greater balance between our life experiences, and within our life experiences, the sensation and the feeling of justice. And I call it feeling of justice because, at least personally for me, justice has always had this connotation of something that is outside. Justice is the structure that's supposed to, there is some, let's call it government, that is supposed to provide us with justice so that there is balance. And through my life, I'm learning to understand that there is self-government is way more important than hoping and believing and thinking that somebody else somewhere is going to create balance for you or going to establish justice for you. So working on justice within, internal sense of justice, and that more could be seen or felt as balance. This balance between all things that I have within my inner world that I can experience, my physical reality, my mental reality, my spiritual reality. Where do I create and how do I create balance between these. So of course the contemplation of justice cannot just be finished, or cannot just be rounded by this 1 week of contemplation on it. It really opened up this beautiful sense of how I relate to justice, and I invite us to contemplate on the sense of justice in our lives, and also on the balancing act that happening through our limitations and our sense of justice.